Hello, folks. Today is Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. My name is Starovoytova, and this is the 11th episode of Keeping It Realistic. You know the drill by now. In this show, we are going through the projects that have been posted in the Chaos Campus Facebook group within the last week, talking about their strengths, but also pointing out their weaknesses and suggesting eventual ways to improve them. I see a lot of you are already online, have already jumped in the show. I hope you hear me. I hope you see my screen. I see no comments of yours so far. But I hope that everything is technically without any issues. We had some issues in the past, but most of the time everything has been fine. So if you hear me, if you see me, please give me a thumbs up in the comments so that I know that everything works. Because currently I see no comments. Usually there are comments. Okay, Irina is online. She says everything is okay. Okay, this is all I needed to do. Again, it's a live show. It's Facebook Live, which is a bit notorious for some issues, and stuff happens. So it's always great to have your feedback and to know that everything is going according to plan and we have no issues. Before we jump into the projects, there is a lot to talk about today. I like to do some announcements or talk about recent news or interesting stuff in the beginning of the show, and this is what I want to do now. And in this case, I want to talk with you about our group chat. It's the Keeping It Realistic chat, which you can actually freely join. And it has been quite active recently, and this was really, really awesome. The way I personally imagine it to be, the way I want it to be, the way a community should be, in my opinion. So I decided to just show you around a bit. And as an example, I would take last Thursday, where you see the day started with Niku, who is obviously doing our monthly image recreation challenge, and he had an issue with it and he couldn't figure it out himself. So he asked a question, then I tried to answer, then somebody else, Daniel, provided him with a link to a tutorial about perspective match in the most recent version of Max 2023. Konstantinos shared his own opinion or his view on Niku's problem, and by the end, it was like at noon, Niku already had enough input to work with that he actually was able, I hope, to figure out the situation that he was dealing with and hopefully to deal with his problem as well. Then around noon, Kama just decided to share a snap of his monitor with his current work in progress state of our monthly challenge, which it's not only inspiring to him and motivating, it's also to everybody else who maybe has just started to see that, some other artist is also working on it. We're in the same boat, stuff like this. And then by the evening, I wasn't at home, I wasn't in front of the PC. My daughter had a lantern fest at her school, so I was there, but my phone was vibrating the whole time in my pocket, and I was wondering why. And then when I came back home later, I saw that it was Abderrahman. He had shared an image, an exterior project of his, and he had asked for some feedback, and immediately Kama reacted, sharing that it's a good project, but the contrast is maybe a bit too high. Victor joined in with more or less the same feedback, and a suggestion to add environmental fog in order to reduce the overall contrast. In the meantime, Abderrahman shared an evening version of the same shot, asking for people to point out their preferred version. And as you see, then he also shared an evening version with the fog that Victor was talking about. At some point, Mario joined in with his take on Abderrahman's work. And here he even made this very, very nice and simple image with some arrows on it, pointing out the areas where Mario considers that detail is lost because of areas being too dark, because of too high contrast. I think this didn't take him ages to make. It's you can very quickly do some arrows in Paint even, or in Photoshop or whatever. But the thing is that it very much helps. It visualizes Mario's opinion. Then Harold joined in with his take on the whole thing. At some point, as I was home, I also gave Abderrahman my opinion, and he was, in the meantime, he was experimenting with new lighting version, new compositions, and so on. Some of them good, some not so, like this one where we have a recycle bin with some really holy light on it. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that there has been so much exchange in this chat, so much talk, so much something that to a lot of us isn't available because we work on our own and not as a part of a larger studio where we can discuss with others. And you see there was a lot of exchange. It was really active. At some point, Caspar joined in, and inspired by what we just did with Abderrahman, he shared a work of his, so we talked about it a bit as well. He was asking about the implementation of 2D people, and again, he was immediately met with a few very different approaches. So Mario suggested doing 3D people and then making them realistic with the help of AI, like yeah. And what I suggested is I shared a link to a tutorial by Archvis Artist about the implementation of 2D people in post-production. I also told him that I personally like to put 2D people directly onto planes with opacity directly into my 3D scenes and so on. So just so you see, what I want to say with all of this, what I'm showing you is that, you know, you may have great skills, you may be very good to have, you may have good hardware and maybe even a trained eye, but what a lot of us really don't have is a second or third or fourth pair of eyes that can also take a look at this work and share their take on it. What we don't have is this here, like especially freelancers, solo artists, self-employed artists, we often don't have this thing here. And this chat is something that can actually replace it, at least to a certain extent. So the more you use it, the more you actually communicate with each other, help each other there directly, the more you can do something that is very, very common for visualization studios, architectural offices, for gaming developers. You know, to train my English while I'm working, I often watch gaming documentaries on my right monitor. It's because if I watch something about 3D, like tutorials or courses or something, I have to pay my attention to it, and I can actually work. But when I watch something about gaming, this is a topic that is interesting to me, but I don't have to watch it. I can just listen to it more or less like a podcast. But what I have seen there, every time a new studio is being interviewed or introduced, you always see the artists there sitting together in front of one monitor and discussing one artist's work. You always see them, right? So this is very, very typical. And again, those of us who work alone without colleagues and so on, we don't have this. So this is where this chat comes in, and where it can at least partially replace the colleagues that we don't have, and all those talks and all those discussions and immediate opinions. So gladly use it. It's already working, but we can do it even more. Let us really discuss. And also don't only rely on me in this chat, because, I'm already doing this here. I'm already giving live reviews to your works. So let the chat be something that you do on your own, so to speak, because, if I do it as well, and like I'm always the one answering there, then at some point I really have no time to do my commercial work or something. So yeah, let's do it. But it has been really awesome. This Thursday evening was a really great one to me, because it was just a joy to see the chat being so active, and the group members helping each other. It was just really, really cool. And with that being said, I think we can pick up where we left last time. Maybe just quickly about our monthly project recreation challenge. We're already 2 weeks in, so you have half of the time in front of you to finish this. I think some of you, like Mario, I think are already finished or seem to be finished. Others are just starting, but this doesn't matter. It's not like who delivers the quickest work, but who does the best work anyway. So you have 2 more weeks in front of you, and gladly share with me how is it going? Do you have any difficulties? Is the project, has it become annoying now that you're recreating it or not? What I can say is that it seems like a lot of people are participating, which is amazing, and which also means that in future we will be making further challenges, which is awesome if you ask me. Let me take a look at the comments quickly. I see Irina, Flatson, Aman, Sachith, Roy. Hi to all of you friends. I think with all of this being said, we can actually jump right in where we left last time. This was the last show, and continue with a work by Abbas. It is an animation. He says, watch our quick bedroom animation. It shows an empty room turning into a cozy and lovely space. Walls change color, furniture appears, and it becomes a peaceful room. Enjoy the short video about making a nice bedroom. So, good description, Abbas. Not entirely true though, because at no point it is actually an empty room, right? It's more like an exploded view animation rather than really an empty room where stuff begins being added to until it becomes a really fully furnished bedroom. Nevertheless, it's a really cool animation, and I can very much agree with this room being, what do you call it, cozy and lovely. I personally like it. It has a nice warm color palette to it, which is very suitable for a space of rest like a bedroom. The interior design looks good to me. It's always a matter of perspective, of personal opinion. I personally like it. The lighting is also pretty nice. It adds a layer of nice, comfortable mood to the whole scene, which is cool. The music is good as well. I won't play it, Facebook. I don't want the video to end up being unavailable to some of you in some countries just because I play this sound here, but you can hear it on your own. When it comes to possible improvements, there is again not much to say. When you take a look at the end of the video, you will see that the pillows hover over the bed for a second before they come down. You can see it here. I cannot hear. They are still, and then they come down. Maybe you can fix this for a better, more perfect loop. But other than that, there is not much to say. It's a nice teaser. I guess you had fun making it. And your digital portfolio will also probably profit from it, because you have something moving, something more dynamic into it, and not only still images, which is always great, in my opinion. I see Alan joined us. Hello, my friend. Mozamil as well. We will be talking about your work. And let's move on to a project which is situated in my hometown, Sofia. And this is very interesting because the living quarter this project is situated in, it's in the mountains, a bit, not really mountainy, but a bit in the mountains. And it is not far away from this, I gotta show this to you, this really amazing piece of art. This is the snail in Simeonovo. I don't know if you have seen this building before, probably not. So I'm very grateful to be the one to introduce it to you. Gladly share with me in the comments what you think about this piece of art in Bulgaria. I can tell you, Bulgarian architecture doesn't always look like that, but sometimes it does. And I don't know what to say. I think it's a kindergarten, a daycare, but maybe it's a private house. I'm not sure about this, but I gotta admit that I'm always very, very pleased with the way this thing looks like, this snail looks like. It looks really like it's absolutely tired of all people's bullshit. It's like, it's just, I don't know. I don't know what to call it. Maybe you can give me a description of it. But yeah, I have been there. I have seen it live. It's even more impressive when you stand in front of it. But just so you know, I thought I can introduce you to some Bulgarian architecture. Anyway, going back to Marin's project, he says it's Belgravia Apartments located in Sofia, Bulgaria. It's a residential type of project. The CGI is by Koliba Studio. I guess this is Marin's studio or the studio where Marin works at. Koliba is, by the way, a pretty cool name for an Archviz studio, because Koliba is the Bulgarian word for hut, like mud hut, let's say. It's from this year. And he says more to be announced. I'll be sharing the animation for this project and more images soon. Would love to get some feedback on what could be improved in terms of lighting, materials, and compositions. Very cool description. It's also great that you're open to feedback, to criticism, as long as it's constructive, of course. What I'm missing in your description, Marin, is the software combination you did all those images with. And as always, you can gladly share a bit more information about this project, the background of it. The images themselves look really nice, in my opinion. They are very visually consistent, even though we have an exterior and interiors after that, but they still look very, very visually consistent. Also, they are nicely varied. You see, every new shot introduces a new space or a new feature of this project, and it's not just, let's say, the main facade, just with shots from different directions, which I think is pretty awesome. Now, let's take a look at the design. What I also have to applaud on is that you actually took the time to give a name and a title to each of the images that you have uploaded, so it is easier for the viewer to comprehend what situations we're currently looking at. So this, for example, is the entrance lobby exterior, obviously. This is the entrance lobby on the inside, so the interior of it. We have the elevator floor space, so the corridor between the apartments, I assume. We have a typical apartment living room, a typical apartment bedroom, and then a typical apartment yard. I guess typical for the ground floor apartments, because those who are higher up don't have a garden like this. And then we're back at the very first shot. So design-wise, to me, everything seems really cool, really fine, makes sense. Regarding this shot, Kasper in the comments to your work said that he doesn't like how staged it looks with this green Porsche in front of it. And I gotta admit that on the one hand, I very much agree with Kasper. I also don't like it. It looks staged. It's over the top. And I'm not a big fan of images like this. On the other hand, however, one should be, in reality, images like this are actually being done. Here are two examples of this. So we have a Rolls-Royce SUV in front of this posh building entrance. Here we have another luxury vehicle in front of this hotel, probably the Pierre. So you see, images like these are being done. They are not untypical for, let's say, especially main entrances that look like this one. So it's more of a matter of taste, I would say, by the end. And maybe, this is my personal view, a shot like this is more about the car rather than it is about the building. But yeah, let's continue. What you answered, Marin, was that, you don't like it as well that much, but the client wanted it this way. Now, I often encounter situations like this, that I criticize something on an artist's work, and the artist comes back at me and says, yeah, I don't like it either, but my client wanted it this way. Remember, before you post a work, you can always rework parts of it, especially if you keep the building as it is, but you move the car, let's say, closer to the camera, so that, let's say, we only see the roof of the car slightly blurred with depth of field so that it covers the empty street, and then we see the building in the back. I don't see an issue. Neither you nor the client should have an issue with it. So if you don't like the image as it is, gladly rework it before posting. Because why not? Always post or share with the community and with your portfolio the best version of your work, right? So just, a small recommendation on my side. Now, regarding the modeling, everything looks fine to me. There is a lot of it. It's a big complex. It's a big project to work on. We have both interior and exterior. And what I really like about it is that the quality of your modeling and your work overall is very constant. Doesn't matter if it's exterior or interior, the quality always seems to have this high level of detail, of good materials, good lighting, and so on, which is something very nice. Sometimes artists tend to put a lot of effort into, let's say, the exterior, and then they just half-ass the interiors or vice versa. But in your case, both interior and exterior have the same high quality level. There is a lot of love and effort visible into the work. You see all the small details, all the scenes. Nothing looks rushed or just made, or half-assed. Every scene has attention to detail to it, and I really, really appreciate this. The assets you have used are also pretty high quality. They look good, so very, very nice work in general. What I can say is that some of the edges appear a bit too sharp, which on a project like this, with a scale like this, isn't untypical, but if you don't want to chamfer them one by one, you can just add round edges bump to your material so that let's say the edges chamfer themselves and are not that sharp anymore. Material-wise, very good work with the materials, same with the modeling, good quality overall, quality maps, nice color palette in general. I would say that the fabric materials actually deserve a special mention. Take a look at this one. This is like a public area. I think I know this material from Polygon, if I'm not mistaken. It looks really good. It has substance to it. It doesn't look flat. It looks actually like carpet floor. Then here, take a look at the carpet, looks great as well. And then here in the bedroom, the carpet floor, the bed, the curtains, the velvet, all of those fabric materials look really, really good, in my opinion. What I don't like as much is the cleanness of this exterior material, the facade material. To me, it's a tad too clean. Now, I know clients are not big fans of dirt, leakages, and so on, so I won't be recommending you to have like huge leaks somewhere here or something. But, this is a stone facade, and even in the cleanest countries, the cleanest facades have some, let's say imperfections to them. Like in those inner corners, dirt gathers very, very quickly. They tend to become a bit darker. So maybe just add some ambient occlusion or some curvature to your material in order to make it look more lively and authentic and realistic. Scattering wise, I wanted to say the grass here, I like it, but maybe it's a bit too uniform and dense. Maybe cut it a bit shorter if you want to visually make visible that this is very clean, very tidy and everything, or maybe add a few weeds in between, just a small amount for the sake of high authenticity. And the next thing is that a few fallen leaves will always add a layer of like a more natural look to your project. If it's here, the backyard or the main street, the sidewalk and the street, you have trees there, you have trees in the backyard, you have trees here as well. So gladly add a few fallen leaves on the floor. I mean, it's Bulgaria. Like, let's not overdo it, right? I have been to really, really expensive, very, very clean countries like Vaduz, Liechtenstein's capital. And it's a small city to clean. They have tons of money to do so, and they still have fallen leaves here and there. So again, it's every city, everywhere where there is greenery, there are fallen leaves. So gladly add them here and there. You don't need a huge amount. It's not an autumn scene, so you don't need like a million fallen leaves. Just a few far in between, so that you can have a bit of a more natural look, especially to your outdoor areas. Lighting and framing wise, both the lighting and the framing are generally very good with this project. I like the lighting consistency with it, so we have very similar lighting conditions on the out and inside, resulting in this great image consistency. The most angles that you have chosen for your framing I like as well. I have a few issues here and there. The first shot we already talked about. It's the car here and the perfect symmetry. I think it feels a bit staged through this. Also, it isn't really informative. Like, we don't see the surrounding buildings. We don't see the whole street. We just see a very small fragment of the facade. So if I was a client or a potential buyer of this project, I would wish to see a bit more surroundings. And one small detail, you have the bottom spots here. They are hidden behind this overshadowing roof here. They are very cool. They make a very nice gradient and end up lighting up the ledge very subtly. It's very beautiful. And it seems like you have taken the same lights and just copied them or instanced them once again up here. The problem is, however, that here the columns or the facade is way shorter, so we don't have this nice gradient anymore, but we have a pretty bright area here, and the ledge, that is where the light cone ends up being, is almost overexposed. So you may want to reduce the intensity of those lights up here. On the second shot, I think it would have been a tiny bit cooler if like the bottom edge would have been parallel to this line here, but maybe this is just OCD speaking, so gladly ignore this. On the fourth shot, this one is really great. I really like it, very informative, but also kind of atmospheric. And on the fourth shot, this one, it's the fruit bowl. The fruit bowl is very distracting because it's too colorful. All the colors here are very saturated, but most of them are nowhere else to be found. This makes the fruit bowl here very special, very interesting, and a big eye catcher, which it actually shouldn't be composition-wise. The second thing is that this space here is kind of too evenly lit, if you ask me. Like, there is no zone building whatsoever. Like, the wall is lit, the ceiling is lit up, the floor, the furniture, everything. It's too even, if you ask me. So I understand it has to be inviting, it has to be welcoming visually. I understand this, but I also think that it's also cool when we see different zones in an image like this, which obviously has at least two zones depicted, the dining area and the living area. So maybe if this buffer zone between them would be a bit darker, so that the living room is lit up and the dining room is lit up as well, I think it would be a bit better. And maybe use a bit of depth of field here, because you have already cut the chairs to the side, so you can also blur them out a bit. This one is really, really good, and the last one as well. So in conclusion, really good work. If you want to improve it a bit, concentrate more maybe on making your surroundings a bit lively. For the first shot, it means maybe street lights, bollards, parked cars, a manhole cover somewhere in the street. maybe a wider cropping so that we see a bit of the surroundings. When it comes to the backyard, it means some scattered leaves here and there, some weeds into the grass. Um, Again, we talked about the facade material, some ambient occlusion or curvature material would probably add a bit of realism to it. And again, some randomness to the whole scene with the fallen leaves, and then it's a pretty cool project. And by the way, folks, in the beginning of this review, I said that it is in my hometown, Sofia, Bulgaria. So I would gladly want to ask you, what is your hometown? Where do you all come from? And in the meantime, I will move over to Flatson's project. This is project number 3 for today. It's cozy bedroom, modeling and visualization done by Flatson himself. It's done in SketchUp and V-Ray. He says, this is a personal project. I did it with the aim of taking a break from SketchUp and V-Ray. In the last few days, I've been studying 3ds Max and Corona, so the next visualization will be with these new softwares that I'm learning. I hope you enjoy and leave your feedback on this image. Note, I'm learning other modeling software to have more dynamics in my work in general, specifically 3ds Max and Blender. Very nice description as usual. I really love the about part of your posts, dear Flatson. Every artist should have something like this, if you ask me. It's always great to know why you did a project or what you're currently doing. It's a pleasure to know that you're also learning new stuff. So you already were good with SketchUp and V-Ray. So what it seems, you now have decided to try out 3ds Max and Corona, also Blender. On one of the last shows, you were experimenting around with Enscape. This is great. It's always great for an artist to have a wider palette of tools at their disposal so that they can pick the right one for the right project. The image presentation in this case, regarding the description, I was a bit confused, to be honest, because you said you took a break from SketchUp and V-Ray, but you also say that it's done in SketchUp and V-Ray. So I thought in the end it's a Max and Corona project, but I asked you and you said it's SketchUp with V-Ray in this case. Regarding the images themselves, presentation is nice, visually consistent. Other than that, it's more or less the same scene, the same input, just from 2 different directions. I don't find something like this very exciting, but it's okay. I mean, with 2 images, it's okay. So let's take a closer look. We have simple, very classic design. We have the bed, the 2 nightstands, and then a picture on the wall above the bed. So nothing crazy or wild here, but it looks nice. It's sweet, simple design, not really much more to say about it. What I like is this big knit blanket. I don't know how they are called, if they have a specific name. What I searched here was big knit blanket, and you see I get blankets like the one that you have used. Personally, I like them. They're really over the top when it comes to the size. So I think it's a cool element you decided to use into your scene. Like, this is more of the on the special side, because I just talked about that everything else seems rather common. So seeing an element like this brings something interesting into the scene, in my opinion. The nightstands, on the other side, they're pretty casual and old school, but that's not wrong. They still fit the scene. It's just that nowadays there are, let's say, more interesting solutions. The same way this blanket here has a bit of a different look to it. I think that maybe there are more interesting nightstands to work with as well. Modeling wise, there really isn't much to talk about, but what is there, it's fine. The bed set is quite cool. The nightstands we already talked about. Material wise, good work with the materials. You have a nice color combination, good materials in general. It seems that your parquet floor is done with displacement, and if so, maybe check the displacement quality settings, because the edges are a bit rough now. And you also have texture repetition on those wooden planks here. Like it seems that you have used multimap or something in order to change the color a bit, but the pattern is always the same, so use a UVW randomizer in order to change the pattern as well. Lighting wise, the lighting is nice, obviously, right? It's lighting. It lights up the scene. It's soft illumination, which fits the laid-back nature of a bedroom. Makes sense. This is a place where people go to wind down from the day, to chill, to relax. So it makes sense to not have too strong contrast there. This is good. But at the same time, the lighting is also a bit boring and unemotional, if I have to be honest. And given that this is like a personal practice that you make, I think you should be more courageous when you're experimenting around with it. So, for example, what you can do with a simple scene like this, if you want to experiment with the lighting, you can try out gobos. You know gobos? These are these maps that you can use on your lights and then drastically change the way your lighting looks like just with the help of a map that you can easily switch. Just take a look at those examples here. You see how vastly different everything looks just with the help of a gobo map, right? So there is also this article here that I would now share in the comments. It's on the topic of gobos. So maybe do some reading on this topic, see how you can maybe implement it into your scenes, not only on exercise scenes, but also when it comes to maybe saving time. Instead of putting actual trees in front of your windows, you can put a map like this and just have the impression of leaves on the inside, but actually way lower and quicker render times, right? Also, when we are still at the topic of lighting, you have massive overexposure in this area here, and this is something you really gotta fix. I know you know how to do this. So, framing-wise, both angles work. This one, to me, feels like so classic. I'm just over it. Let me share this with you. You know, I also do some commenting and feedback giving in the VW Art Club. This year, I have done a lot of this. And what I see there as a tendency is that when a bedroom is posted, it usually doesn't get a lot of attention. If it's not something which is really crazy, really special looking, it usually doesn't get much attention. And it's not the issue that they are poorly made. I sometimes click on those images and, you know, inspect them closely, and mostly they are quality work when it comes to modeling, materials, so on. It's just that I think that people are just kind of bored with bedrooms in the meantime. This is just my personal subjective impression, but it is almost always like this, that the works with the lowest number of likes in the VW Art Club tend to be those bedrooms, because there is a ton of them like every day, and I think that the viewers are just overly saturated with them. So personally, I enjoy this angle more because it has an element of storytelling to it, with the shoes, for example, and it's generally more dynamic, more interesting. So in conclusion, this is one nice little exercise that you did. Again, I think you should be risking more because you're a skilled artist, you're capable of more, so gladly risk out more. With a situation like this, maybe try an early evening mood, or sunset, sunrise. I don't know, like late night mood with just the light from the street lamps coming from the outside, stuff like this. Just go wild, experiment. This is a lightweight scene. The render times surely aren't that long, so gladly be bold, more courageous, and experiment more. Try out new stuff. Especially when it comes to lighting, to storytelling, to framing, go wild. This is my suggestion to you. And now let's move on to something very interesting. Konstantinos, you know, he has been sharing those 30-second tutorials with us. I think he's already shared 3 or 4 of those with us. Every time they were very useful, and they were very appreciated. So what he did here is a small survey asking the group for a proposal or for an idea for the next 30-second tutorial. He says, since I noticed that the 30-second tutorials we upload are highly appreciated in this group, we at Mesh Mastery decided to let you pick what the next 30-second tutorial will be about. You can select any of the following or even propose your own idea. Please do this. We are running out of ideas. And you actually did. There are lots of really great ideas by Krasimir, by Dani that have been added. Currently, the winner is Animated 3 in 30 seconds, followed by Realistic Wrinkles in 30 seconds. So I don't know how long this survey will be active for. So I guess one of those two will be the one that we'll see as the next. And really cool move, Konstantinos. Thanks for that. Looking forward to the tutorial. What we have as a next is, I'll just briefly mention it, is a question by Yunut. He needed help with, I guess, animation or video presentation of a house interior. He decided to ask in the group. I think this is something that you can gladly also do in the chat. Just reach out to everybody and ask them. And also, when you do so, this is something I see Abderrahman had to ask you. He says, by presentation, you mean animations. Abdi also had to ask you, what exactly do you mean? So if for questions like this, gladly share some similar reference to what you actually want to achieve. Because the more specific your question is, the more specific the answers you will get will be. And you want specific answers, right? Next, we have another announcement, this time by Marcello. It's he says, this coming November 22nd, so this is next Wednesday, will be a workshop to show you how to improve the quality of your designs to a hyper-realistic level, thanks to the compatibility between Enscape and V-Ray. Taught by channel manager Kel's group. This is something very cool. It's going to be in Spanish only. So as far as I know, there won't be any subtitles in English or something. So I don't know Spanish or Portuguese, so I won't be able to understand it and I won't attend it. But if you know Spanish or Portuguese, gladly check it out. Again, it's next Wednesday, November the 22nd. And then we arrive at Muzamil's work. It's called Autumn. It's done in 3ds Max and Corona. He says, yesterday I saw one image on Facebook and tried to copy it. It's attached in the comments. Here it is. Would like to see your comments and compliments. Thank you. Good description, Muzamil. It's very cool that you're so upfront about having copied the image. Again, there is nothing wrong with that. We as you know, we have this challenge where we create an existing project. So there is nothing wrong with such recreations, and it's the right thing to do, to be upfront and honest about it and just put it out there for everybody to know. It's not your original work, but you recreated something existing, as you did. In future, gladly credit the original artist. In this case, it is Mark Gergelian. You can also share a link to his work as well, so that he also gets maybe some love. But yeah, I saw that you reached out to him personally, telling him that his work inspired you to make a recreation, and that you recreated it, and you asked him for his opinion, which I think is pretty cool. And he even gave you some feedback, which is also very cool. But yeah, let's take a closer look at all of this. So this is the original work by Mark, and this is your version of it. It's a cool entrance situation in general, because we have these landscape stairs, which are very interesting architecturally. We also have this very extensive greenery, which usually is a product of landscape architecture. So it absolutely is a scene worth visualizing, that, let's say, as a base. And now let's take a look at both works one by one. So this is the original, the work by Mark. Obviously, as I already stated, pretty cool design. Um, Sweet details to it. I really like how there are some fallen leaves onto this open wooden plank here. I also like the drying puddles on these concrete stepstones. These are really small but very, very important details for the believability of the scene. I also very much like the pleasant soft lighting. So we have this global illumination which nicely illuminates the scene, but we also have spots of sunlight that just add this layer of emotionality to the whole situation depicted here. The scattered leaves look pretty cool as well. I also like how they are not just simply scattered on this whole area, but they are scattered closely to the area where in real life they would actually be gathered. The wind will blow them into these gaps here, so this is one very natural scattering. Still though, the original work isn't without issues as well, because first of all we have some grass clipping through the stepstones. We have edges that are very sharp, if you ask me. The glazing, both glazings, actually are pretty rudimentary when it comes to the modeling. And some of the plants look pretty fake to me, like this one and this one especially, and the ivy here. So yeah, the original one is not perfect, but it's pretty cool. Now let's take a look at your work. So it's first of all, it's a good recreation of the original. It feels very similar, even though I don't think that you tried to recreate it like perfectly. I don't think that you did a perspective match on it. You just recreated it by eyeballing, which is very credible and legit way to do so. Yours is like a bit more overgrown than the original. Like you see in original, the stepstones are very visible, very prominent, and some of yours are a bit sunk in the greenery, but that's okay. The modeling is good on your side. The edges are nicely rounded. I don't think this is chamfer. I think this is a round edge material, but it doesn't matter. They look more realistic than Mark's. Your glazing also has more detail than the glazing of the original as well. So yeah, good work with that. The lighting is pleasant. You aced the lighting, similar to what Mark did. You gotta know this type of lighting is a very smart solution, because these spots here aren't only there for the atmosphere, they also showcase that there are probably high trees above the camera that we don't see the crowns of, but they are there. We can acknowledge this because of these spots that we see down here. So this is also informational and not only emotional. The scattered leaves that you have lying all around, they may be a bit big. This is what also Mark told you, but they look quite realistic, really good models, by the way. And to me personally, your greenery looks more harmonious than Mark's. Somehow, this is just a personal feeling, but it kind of looks more harmonious. But here there are issues as well, as you may imagine. First of all, this scattered grass, which actually isn't grass, but some kind of a plant, it's too specific. I think what Mark did is better. It's just casual grass, what he has there. So my suggestion to you is maybe replace this plant with grass. I think you even have grass underneath it. Then just massively reduce the density of this plant, because it is just way too much and way too specific to look natural and authentic. Also, it is clipping through these stepstones as well, and also through these wooden planks. So you have to be more careful with your edges. The yucca palm, when we're talking about clipping, the yucca palm is also clipping through those planks and through the frame here as well. The room behind the window here and this one here, they both look very, very empty. So maybe try to hint some interior design, or maybe place some curtains there, something that shows that somebody actually lives there. The entrance door doesn't look as great as well, and it seems like you have put this handle in the post-production or via, I don't know, generative fill. I'm not sure about this, but it looks kind of a bit strange, to be honest. So I think you could do better. And generally, when it comes to the tone mapping, compared to Mark's, which is like a bit more coldish, yours is a bit maybe too warm. So I try to make a colder version of it, which I would personally say I prefer. So this is your original, and this is the coded version. I think it looks a tiny bit more realistic. But with all of this being said, this is pretty nice and quick, by the way, work. It seems like you took a day only to make it. So yeah, your portfolio surely is happy with this. And one general advice before we move on, I don't recommend recreating renderings as much as recreating actual photography, because renderings already are an interpretation of reality. So when you recreate or reproduce a rendering, you are interpreting an interpretation of reality. So you're distancing yourself from authenticity. This is why if you want to recreate something, look for a similar photo and then recreate this instead of a render. It's always a better option. Yeah. And with this being said, we move over to Irina. Irina with another recreation. This time she recreated photography, what I just recommended. Irina, I saw you in the comments in the beginning, so buckle up. We will go through your work. Let's see what you have to say about it. Hi to everyone. This is a recreation project for training and portfolio. Reference is in the first comment. Here it is. I have chosen this one because I like the combination of styles and colors, and I wanted to work with the complicated forms. It's done in 3ds Max, Corona 8 and Photoshop. The lighting is an HDRI, no sun, no sky. The modeling, you have done the kitchen furniture and the arch door. Thanks in advance for your comments. Wonderful presentation, Irina. All essential information is provided. Your goals are clear. There is a reasoning behind why you chose to work on this project. Some technical info as well, and I don't mean only the software combination, but that you have worked with an HDRI, for example. This is something that I often see artists asking other artists in the comments. Like if they see a good work, they often will ask, how did you do it? Is it sunny sky? Is it HDRI? Which HDRI? And so on. So really, really good description. And as for the images themselves, they are very good as well. Visually, very consistent, and the angles nicely varied. Also, it is a really cool project to recreate. I searched for the original images. You had provided them. I don't know why it looks like this now. I had opened them in a larger preview. But it is as it is. Anyway, the project, to me, it's a very beautiful combination of classic architecture and modern design elements. And all of this is fused together in a very nice, charismatic, and elegant way. But it is also something very, very challenging. Let me take a look if I can go back here and find the original images. I'm not sure why Instagram post this shit on me, but yeah, now we can see a larger preview. I'll try to make the same with the second image as well, so that we can just see the detail and the situation better. It was somewhere here in the beginning, so yeah, it won't take this long. Yeah, here it is. So yeah, these are the original photographs. So it's quite challenging. You see here we have these oval forms with the glazing. We have difficult moldings. We have the arched passage between the kitchen and the dining room. So you certainly went for a challenge here. And honestly, taking a look at the final results, you came out as a winner, because what you did here is really, really high quality visualization, in my opinion. First of all, really good modeling, despite the complex forms, good attention to details, the moldings look great, the oval forms, the arched passage, everything that was really difficult at first glance, you aced very nicely. The assets that you have chosen to work with, some of them honestly are almost identical to the original. Just take a look at this vase with the plant here, and then the original. It's like more or less the same thing. So this is fascinating. This is pretty cool. And in the situations where you weren't able to find something which is like exactly the same, like with those chairs, for example, this is how the original chairs look like. They're very nice, very elegant. So what you took out of this is you really analyzed it and found out that they're made out of wood. They're very elegant. They have these prolonged forms, and then you found chairs that are different but still similar in their overall look. So great job also when it comes to analyzing. The materials look good as well. The color palette is very nicely matched to the original and also between the two images. The lighting is quite authentic too. In your comments, you said that you had an issue countering the overexposure. I guess you're speaking about this shot. You had an issue countering the overexposure on the outside, which resulted in dark areas around the windows on the inside. Judging by this shot, I don't see it as an issue. It looks very normal to me. It doesn't look too dark. Nothing here is too dark. But if you want to hear some tips about how to deal with situations like this, first of all, this exterior here isn't overexposed. You can expose it furtherly. So you can just make the illumination, the output multiplier on your HDRI a higher number, which will make the outside a bit brighter, that's for sure, but it still won't be overexposed, and this will make your interior brighter as well. Just make sure to have a highlight compression value, because you're a Corona user, a highlight compression value of 5 to 7 in order to avoid areas like here where you have overexposure. You can also fix something like this in the post-production as well, obviously. So if this is like your original image, this is a bit of post-production that I did to it. I mean, you can clearly tell it's brighter now, even the darker areas. Nothing is too dark in a scene like this, and this was just simple, quick 1 minute post-production. What you can do if you want to do this to achieve the same effect in 3D, you can actually place a white plane behind the camera so that it's not visible to the camera. And this white plane will be a reflective surface. So the light that is coming from the outside will reflect into this white plane and bounce back into those darker areas, making them brighter. Alternatively, if this white plane is visible in reflections, for example, and you want to avoid this, you can just place an invisible light source somewhere behind the camera, and then it has to be very subtle, of course. Give it just a neutral color, so Kelvin 6500, and then let it shine onto these areas that you consider too dark. And that's it. Back to the project. Framing wise, I mean, the angles were given. I really like the depth of field that you have used here on this shot. Everything is pretty cool. On the negative side, there isn't really much to criticize, honestly. I think you can have a bit more detail on this arched glazing here. Usually these horizontal and vertical glazing bars are separate objects and not one continuous geometry. So if you make them like this, you will be able then to do better UVW mapping, to randomize it a bit and make the whole thing a bit more realistic. Second thing is that this yucca plant here, it seems to be in front of the drawer and the cupboard door, which renders them a bit unusable. In the original, you see that the plant is beside the kitchen counter. So maybe fix this in order for it to make sense. And the last thing is that the background seems a bit blurry, like low poly. So if you can get your hands on a higher poly, larger version of the sky that you have used, of the HDRI, gladly do so and swap it. If not, upscale the image that you already have. But in conclusion, this is a wonderful work of yours, a wonderful recreation. You took a challenge, a real challenge. This is not an easy thing to recreate. And you aced it. And let's take a look at the results together now. So first of all, you have an exciting, beautiful new portfolio project, which is already great. Secondly, you are a slightly better and more skilled artist now. And this is not just empty words. This is the truth. You hadn't worked with an HDRI before this project, and now you have. So now you have more knowledge to you, making you better and more skilled. Also, I'm sure that there were situations here, let's say the moldings in the corner, for example, that were challenging to deal with, and you managed to overcome this, which again makes you a better and more skilled artist, right? And third of all of this results in a higher self-esteem for you as an artist, which is very, very important for the way you talk and deal with clients, for the way you approach new projects in future. So there is so much benefit to this challenge that you have given to yourself. And congratulations, you did really, really great. And yeah, this is the reason why in our group we have this challenge, this project recreation challenge, because of all these things that I just said to Irina. There is so much gain from recreating such a project. You challenge yourself, you win, you have better self-esteem, you're a better artist, more skilled now, and you have a great new portfolio project to diversify and make your portfolio more rich. This is just great. Let's continue with Tilina. You know, when we see Tilina's works, I don't talk about them like, you know, modeling materials, framing, and so on. We just enjoy watching them together. I just hope so. This is another one. They are all very similar in their general organic look, and I really enjoy them. And I shared my opinion with Tilina, and the cool thing is he said that this one will actually be implemented soon. I really hope that someday I will be able to visit one of his buildings live and see it, see how it looks in nature. It would be a cool experience, I imagine. But yeah, this is it. On this shot, Tilina, if you watch this at some point, I think you should fill in this white gap here with something. Let's say a lake in the distance or just further forest or whatever, because currently it's just empty and doesn't look that great, if you ask me. But other than that, pretty cool projects. I really, if they build hotels like this, I will gladly save up the money someday and with my family just go and rent out one of those and just enjoy life for a few days, because it just looks awesome in my opinion. As a next we have Abdi with H2O Flow. Turn on the audio. I want Facebook, you know. But it's a simulation of tap water running into a kitchen sink. And let's see what Abdi has to say about it. He says, spice up your animated ArcVis scenes with some dynamic fluid simulations and bring them to life. Small additional simulations like this can add to a better presentation and make your projects look more real and lifelike. This is absolutely true. And even if it's not an animation, even if it's a still, it still looks very realistic and way more exciting than just an, you know, not running water and an empty sink. The scene was created in 3ds Max with Chaos Phoenix and Tyflow, same as the last project that Abdi shared with us, where Tyflow was used to make the Phoenix foam particles renderable. for Vantage. The liquid simulation with Phoenix took about 15 minutes with more than 17 million particles. The Phoenix foam resimulation process as well as the tie flow simulation for foam was quite fast. The scene was rendered with 500 samples, which took about 15 seconds per frame. Some additional sound effects and color correction was done in post-production with Adobe After Effects. Now, to me personally, this water here, the behavior of it looks very authentic, both the flowing part and the water that is gathered in the bottom of the sink. And I really believe that something like this can add to the authenticity of animations and even still images as well. And to you folks listening, I talked to Abdi, and he would actually really be eager to maybe make a tutorial should we as group members be interested in it. So if you think that something like this can enhance the quality of your work or your animations, gladly let us show Abdi some love. Let him know that we are interested in a tutorial like this, because obviously when he shares this animation and there is like one like underneath it, I don't think that he will feel compelled to make a tutorial about it. But if we're like, hey dude, I'm interested, this looks awesome, please show me how, I think he will do it. So it's up to all of us if we will get to profit from his knowledge and his willingness to share it with us or not. Personally, I'm very much for a tutorial like this. Maybe, dear Abdi, if you listen to this, maybe if it's not a kitchen sink but a bathtub, it will even be a better thing, because if we take a look at reality, we seldomly let the kitchen sink or the kitchen tub just run the water and we go away, contrary to what we do with the bathtub. You know, if I think, well, I want to take a bath in like half an hour, I will go run me a bath, then I will go into the bathroom and start the water, and it will start flowing into the bathtub and filling it up. And while this happens, I'll be away from the bathroom, and this makes way more sense than, let's say, a kitchen tap continuously running. But I won't be picky. Whatever you decide to show, I will be grateful for, and thanks in advance. We have another project by Flatson. We already talked about your work, man, so I will skip this one. This is your first one in Max and Corona. I will read what you wrote about it. It says, guys, this is my first render using 3ds Max with Corona 9, and it was a pleasant surprise for me when I realized that the software isn't as difficult as many people have claimed. A special thanks to the folks at RenderCam for the incredible mini course they provided, because I achieved this result thanks to them. It's a nice, clean result, good lighting, nice materials. The modeling also looks clean. The only issue I saw was this thing here. There is some kind of an issue here, and the reflection doesn't look that great. But other than that, it looks cool for a first project, very nicely done. And again, even though it's a new software combination, you are a skilled artist already. So again, you can go wilder and try different things. Maybe scenes that are more special in general, just, to get to the next level, right? And then we move over to Abbas. Now, we started today with Abbas, but it was this video that I just briefly mentioned. So I decided that I will also quickly talk about this project as well, like a quick review. He says, specializing in interior 3D rendering, we bring designs to life with vivid visuals, offering a realistic preview of your space. Description-wise, dear Abbas, I find this not good because it is very promotional. Like you see, we have a link to your page, we have your Instagram link, and this sentence here is clearly aimed at clients and not at an educational community such as this. Now, you see, almost on a weekly basis, especially during the last shows, the community and you hopefully have had me listening to me talking about projects of yours. And I want to remind you and everybody else that this thing that we have, this show, is completely free. There is no fee for all this reviewing that's been done here for your projects. There are no ads. You're not supposed to buy Chaos products or something. It's not one of these, yeah, let me just make a small demo of how it could be, or just start talking about your work. But if you want to see the full review, you have to pay me or something. It's completely free without any strings attached. So I think it's not much to ask of you to write a description that is oriented at the community, which provides you with these free, very well-meant reviews, rather than just, carelessly paste the text that is meant to promote your work to clients. So please, in future, try to do this. As for the image itself, the small preview looks nice. Let's enlarge it. Very pleasant color scheme. I like how the Christmas decoration doesn't negatively stick out. It actually fuses harmoniously with the design that has already been there, the living room design. I like the nice soft lighting of the scene. The scene is sufficiently illuminated, obviously. The framing is well balanced, in my opinion. The design is also not over the top. Some artists tend to go very much overboard when it comes to Christmas topics, with every centimeter of the scene being filled with decorations and so on. This is pretty cheesy. But in your case, it's still down to earth. It's still subtle. I enjoy this. I also very much like this decoration on the fireplace. It looks really, really good. And now to the negative sides. While we are talking about design, there are some things that don't make much sense to me. First of all, it is this chair here. I don't quite understand why is it placed in front of the fireplace, given that obviously this fireplace with the wood in it is prepared to be used soon. So the chair there doesn't make a lot of sense. The second thing is this book on the floor. Why on the floor? Why not on the table or on the sofa or something? I mean, this could make sense if, let's say, a kid was lying on the floor on its stomach and reading the book. This would actually be very sweet, very Christmassy as well, very festive. But currently, the way it is, it just doesn't make so much sense. So maybe consider adding some elements that will give a storytelling aspect to your scene, telling the viewer that probably a kid is sitting there. So let's say if you add a plate full of cookies and maybe a milk on the side, then maybe it would look like a kid was just sitting there or lying there and reading a book, for example. Or you can maybe make this a coloring book and some, I don't know, colored pencils on the side of it. The second thing that I saw that I don't like this much is the bump on the parquet. It's way too strong. We really gotta reduce it. And the third thing is, like the biggest issue for me at least, is that this is not really a strong image, to put it in the words of Studio Mir. Like it looks a bit like you took a look at the calendar and you were like, oh, December is coming, let's go do a quick image that appeals to everybody who celebrates Christmas. Something like this. Because if you take away the Christmas decorations here, it will just be a very common living room. Now, you can say, yeah, well, this is always the case, right? Nobody has Christmas decorations the whole year in their living room. They have a normal living room, and at some point they put in the tree and other decorations, and it becomes Christmas decorated living room. That's true, but the thing is that the whole atmosphere of the image isn't very festive. Like if you take a look at the background, for example, this just looks like summer mountain landscape. So obviously it doesn't give this Christmas vibes that we are all hoping for with an image like this, for example. And it's kind of like the whole mood. So maybe if you made a snowy outdoor situation, like a snowy backplate, or maybe an evening scene where instead of this chair we have the fireplace with the fire being turned on, so that we feel that it's obviously cold and one needs a fireplace. Stuff like this. I think if you try to change the scene in this regard, it can become a strong image. But currently, the way it is, I don't think that is the case. And generally, in conclusion, it is a nice image, but on the other side, it is also very common and kind of pretty standard. Again, let's refer to the VW Art Club. When December comes and it's nearly Christmas time, I see tons of those images. And in the meantime, they have just become boring, to be honest. They're just like, oh yeah, the next living room with a Christmas tree in it, right? So maybe try a different approach. Maybe try something new, a new angle or a new aspect of the Christmas time, or so on. I'm not sure what exactly. Maybe do a research and see if you can find a different approach and make something which is more unique, more interesting, rather than just the next Christmas living room. I hope this helps you. And yeah, if somebody in the comments is eager to share their opinion, please gladly do. What do you think about those Christmas scenes? Are you tired of them, or do you like them? Personally, I have seen enough of those, in my opinion. As a next, we have a work by Alessio. He says, a little commercial work for a client who wants to see how a bedroom would look like with the green as central color and light wood like Scandinavian design. It's done in Cinema 4D and Corona 10. And by the way, this is a great description. You see, it is very possible to describe your work in a very proper way just within 2 sentences. It's 2 simple sentences. Alessio is in the comments, so I'll ask him directly. Alessio, did it take you an hour to write those, or it was more like a minute? So you see, not only Abbas, but everybody, it doesn't take as much time, but Alessio managed within those two lines, 2 sentences, he managed to give us the software combination, the type of project, so it being a commercial one, the goal of the images, why they were made, something. And he says, yeah, it took like 30 seconds. So it is possible, people. It's just a matter of if you want to do it or not, if you care to do it or not. The images, visually consistent, they are not very varied, the angles, but in this case, it's more like a study, like a technical study, so it makes sense. So let's jump right in and take a closer look. I think this is something very interesting, by the way, right? I like this dark, not so saturated green as a background, and then we have those bright rectangular shapes with different looks to them, made out of wood, interestingly ordered in front of the green background. It's actually a relatively simple way to create a visually designated area for a certain purpose. In this case, it's a bedroom, but it could also be a kid's room or whatever. And the cool thing about it is that you can buy all the stuff needed to do this from the hardware store, from a just common hardware store. The wall paint, the round bars you have here, the planks, the slats, everything you can just find and buy in a hardware store. So you can do it on your own. So honestly, this project to me is inspiring, not only when it comes to visualization of work, but also privately. I will really consider doing something like this at my home because the final effect is pretty strong and pretty cool, if you ask me. Regarding the 2 versions, we have one version where the pendant is hanging to the right and the table lamp is to the left. And then the other version, which obviously is the better one, with the pendant hanging to the left because it has this great space for it to really shine, and the table lamp put to the right where it actually belongs. Other than that, the color scheme is pretty nice. The green goes together with a natural wood color very, very good, in my opinion. Design-wise, here, this part of the room isn't that great, to be honest. It's a bit bare bones. I mean, you can add a curtain here and some HDRI or a backplate with self-illumination to it, just for the sake of having a bit more realistic part here. And if you added a backplate or an HDRI, you also get better reflections here as well. So yeah, it won't take longer than like half an hour to do this. So my suggestion is, if you can, just add the curtains here, and just one curtain, and some background for a more complete final result. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the bed set. The colors of it are very great. They amazingly match what we have here in the back, but the bed itself looks a bit stiff, kind of. This is a personal opinion though. The modeling, other than that, quite solid. The materials look good as well. Good job randomizing the material on the wooden slats here. The lighting works. In this case, it's not very emotional lighting, but this is okay because we want to concentrate on the technical aspects. We want to test out this scene or this concept here, rather than give a moody look to the whole bedroom. The framing is properly chosen to showcase this area here, and all in all, this is just good work. With your help, the client was able to test out this concept before actually implementing it, which I think is very, very useful. Do you often do stuff like this? Because what I usually have to visualize is this marketing stuff, like those images, the glossy images that clients need in order to sell their apartments or buildings or whatever. And I have seldomly made projects like this where a client just more or less tests out their concept with the help of my visualizations. And I think surely it probably, you won't get rich by making those, but on the other hand, I imagine it also doesn't take forever to make them as well. As a next, we have Bilal with a project situated in Germany. By the way, it's the White House case study done in Max, Corona, and Photoshop. He wrote a whole big article about it. It ends with, "I hope, Theodore, this caption is long enough for you to cover all the details." You can also see more details on Behance page. Now, Bilal, cool description by any means. Obviously, you don't have to write small novels every time to properly present your work, especially to me. It's not about me, it's just about this educational community, but also in general. Even if it's let's say a pro group like the Vidauer Art Club, it's always great to be able to see some background info on the project, the software combination that made this project possible. Gladly, personally, I enjoy this when I'm able to see the challenges that you had on your way, and maybe the workarounds that you found. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be as long as this one, but the more information, the better, I would say, because without this information, I wouldn't have known that you actually have a pretty difficult input to work with, because I will show it now to everybody. This was what you were given, like some photos, some very, very old plans of this house, and let's say more or less concept drawings for what is about to be added to it, and just this drone photo of the surroundings. And this really isn't easy input to work with. So yeah, it explains a lot. It makes it easier to evaluate your work. So again, it's up to you. You can do it in 2 sentences like Alessio, or you can write a whole paragraph. I enjoy both. But again, especially given the educational essence of this community, I think that if you write longer text, it's actually a good thing and something that everybody profits from. Now, design-wise, I won't be talking about, I talked about, forgot to talk about the image presentation, which is very visually consistent, maybe not very exciting, because all the 5 angles that we see are just different angles to the main facade. So we don't see new stuff, we only see the same input or the same contents just from different angles, which isn't that exciting, but yeah, in this case, I guess this is what you were tasked with. Regarding the design, again, I won't be discussing the house design because it is given. What I can say, however, is that you managed to make these images look German, like look local, which is a great achievement. Don't underestimate this. This is what I call local authenticity. And it is when an artist manages to make a project which is destined or located in a certain part of the world or in a certain country to look like it is located there just by a single glimpse. And you did it here, and this is something really great. There is just one big exception. As I saw it, I thought, oh, this could be Germany. But what is really strange is the width of this street in front of the building. Because in Germany, especially in a small city like this, we don't have such huge streets just in like a suburban area. So I got back to this original image, and if you take a look at this, you see that the street actually has a pretty normal width to it. It's actually probably even a one-way street, judging by the size of the car, because it's a dead street, a dead-end street, you see. So yeah, in this regard, you should have been a bit more careful, because what you depicted is like this vast, barren street area, which obviously doesn't look very cool. But how it is in real life is more like this, which is way more attractive. So it's more authentic. It just is more like how reality is. It is better looking as well, and it is also more attractive to potential buyers, because if I imagine I will be buying this house, I will always prefer it to have just a small street in front of it and then greenery, rather than just be a huge autobahn highway in front of my house, right? And the other thing that I don't like as much when it comes to this, to the design part of your work, is that the interior on the new floor, this roof floor here, is so nicely filled with life, furnished, and the first floor is just absolutely empty. This makes the work look unfinished, and that's a bit pity if you ask me. Modeling wise, the modeling is good. It's not very detailed, but it's absolutely sufficient for the scale of the project. You have no close-up shots, so you don't need as much detail in this case. Still, when it comes to technical accuracy, you can do a bit better. So let's say we see here some flat roofs that have greenery on them, but they don't look like this. It looks like you just had a box and then you have placed some grass onto it. But in real life, it looks more like this. So we have parapets on the roofs, and usually the greenery is surrounded by some gravel and so on. So yeah, you can be a bit more... you can fine-tune your details in this regard. Like, you don't need every edge chamfered and so on, but details like this you can do better. Scattering wise, I really like what you did, both with the scattering on the house, as we just saw, with the greenery on the roofs, but also with the slope behind the house, with the hill behind it. Some rocks are hovering though. There are some issues with the scattering. I'm not sure which angle it was, but yeah, you see some of the rocks here seem to be just hovering in the air. Also, it seems like the scattered plants, like if you have a slope, it seems like your scattered plants grow perpendicularly to that slope, which isn't very natural. Usually plants should grow vertically, like parallel to the z-axis. So maybe you want to fix your scattering a bit. Material wise, everything looks nice, apart from the greens. You should try to match their colors and their tonality a bit better, because if we take a look at this part here, for example, it's not really harmonious. You see, we have this very saturated green yellowish plant here in the front. Then we have this pale, very bright green here. Then we have the dark, almost brownish green here. So this is too much of a wild mix, which results in a not really harmonious final image. So fix your greens. The lighting is pretty pleasant. It's sunny, but it's not too strong. It makes the building stick out really nicely. And as the images are about this building, this is the right thing to do. This is also nice atmosphere in combination with the distance fog that you have. It makes for really cool atmosphere. And I would say regarding the framing, let us go through the images one by one. So first one, classic, good central perspective, very informative as well, because we also see the neighboring buildings. The second one is really cool. It has great depth to it because of this distance fog. Also, you did something really nice, because the white facade wouldn't have contrasted in front of this very bright bluish sky. You made sure that there are always trees behind the building so that it still sticks out nicely. This is pretty cool. Then we have these more or less isometric views. They seem to be orthogonal, so I don't think they're meant to be that realistic. We have two of those, this one and this one. So yeah, they're rather informative and more technical. Then we have this angle here, which is again similar to the second one, really cool with great depth to it. And then the last shot is more or less the zoom in version of the first shot. So all in all, very solid work. If I were you, before I add this project to my portfolio, I would invest an additional day to furnish the first floor so that it's not empty anymore. We saw this here. With the help of Chaos Cosmos, for example, that's integrated in your software, you can do this really, really quickly. It doesn't have to be like the most elaborate interior design. Just put in some stuff inside so that it looks lived in, and then you're set. Fix the street, make it look like it actually is supposed to be. It will make for a way more beautiful scenery. And optimize and fix your scattering in the back, and then you have a pretty good portfolio project, in my opinion. With this, we move on to the last project for today. I see Abdi just joined us. Hello, man. By Sachith. He says, latest project, fresh design, classic pieces, and a true sense of style with a pure soul point of view. It's done in 3ds Max, V-Ray, and Vantage. Nice description, Sachit. Software combination is clear. What is not so clear is if this is a commercial or a personal exercise. And this, with a pure sold point of view, I'm a bit confused about. I don't really get it. I guess you talk about the pure sold furniture brand, which this chair at least is from. But I still don't get this sentence, a bit cryptic to me. As for the image presentation, I like the varied angles. The visual consistency is mostly given, even though some of the images like this one look a bit dulled out. And the whole project, maybe in general, especially the main image, the first one, looks a bit pale, I would say, and lacks contrast. But let's take a closer look. So we have this living room next to a very big glazing and a terrace, I guess. Neat design, spacious, lightweight, bright and soft color palette, really pleasant to look at. Modeling wise, also everything seems pretty fine to me. On this second shot, we see that the edges are a bit sharp, so gladly chamfer them. You seem to be missing a wall here above the glazing to the balcony. And on the outside, I think this is a tree, or maybe it's a hanging plant coming from the roof. I'm not sure, but if it's a tree, it's just hovering into nothingness. If it is a hanging plant, you gotta turn it upside down, but it's not good the way it is now. Material wise, actually everything looks good. The color combination is nice. The single assets and furnishing go together well, and actually very nicely fits the HDRI background as well, because it's like an autumny scene what we have here, and the interior very much plays together with it. The lighting in general is fine in terms of illumination, so everything is properly lit, nothing is too dark or overexposed. It's kind of realistic, but it's not really very atmospheric. It seems like a trend in recent times that like everything is overcast. And I must admit that I'm not a huge fan of this trend, to be honest, because don't forget that lighting always can add this great layer of atmosphere, of mood. There is so much to light, and when we always get to overcast, it's just like we just have this white global illumination. And while it has nice and very authentic color representation, and we don't have to deal so much with overexposure or underexposure, at the same time, it often is kind of, melancholic and I don't know, maybe a bit depressing. Like there is more to light than just overcast. So remember, there are sunsets, there is sunrise, there are reflections, there are caustics, there is so much you can do. Maybe it's stormy, maybe it's full moon, I don't know. It's not always overcast. Don't let it just be like this, okay? Regarding the first shot, I think it lacks a bit contrast. Like it's a bit almost bleached out, if you ask me. So this is it, and this is how it could be with a bit more contrast to it. So it seems you're watching, you say this is a commercial project. Tell me what you think about, and the others too, tell me what you think about the comparison between these two. Like, I like how soft the lighting is on the initial image, but I think it lacks a bit of contrast, a bit of like to be a stronger and bolder image. And the second shot, I feel doesn't really correspond to the others visually, because you see how even the first one, even though it's a bit washed out, it has very, very clear, very saturated colors, the yellow here, for example. And if you take a look at the second one, and especially compare this part of it that we see in the back and then the close-up on it, we have here really nice contrast on the close-up, but here it looks like you have used different tone mapping and a different post-production approach here, but this one doesn't visually belong that much to the others. And regarding the framing, let's start with the first one again. The angle surely is nice, but the composition is unbalanced. You see, especially in this area here, you see we have this clustering of elements, of strong contrasty elements, like the lamps and this wall art. So if this is the situation, I think it would look way better and way more balanced when it comes to composition if one of those elements is moved to the side. Now, I moved the lamps. It probably would have been smarter to move the wall art so that just to avoid this empty wall, because currently we have so much happening here, a lot happening on the outside, and here nothing happens, and this is not balanced, right? So it obviously is better if one of those elements, probably the wall art, if it is moved to the left and the lamps are here, because you will get a more visually balanced final result. Also, gladly use depth of field on closer objects so that the focus lies more here rather than on the whole scene, because this is just too much to take. The second shot is better in terms of balance and contrast. We have really good contrast throughout the scene. So you see how we have this bright wall and then the dark images on it, and then the dark corridor next to it. Here again we have a bright wall with a dark TV on it. Here we have a bright side of the image with a dark outside scene. So there is a lot of here the bright table with the dark books on it. So there is a lot of cool contrast into this scene. Here again, you can use depth of field on closer objects and maybe extend the cropping a bit downwards so that the whole table fits in. On the third shot, it's sweet depth of field close up. I like it, but the framing is a bit cramped. Here you see that the tables, which you actually focus on with your depth of field, barely fit into the cropping. So gladly extend it downwards like this. So just give it a bit more space so that the tables nicely fit and have space around them, and maybe make the depth of field stronger so that it is easier to focus on the tables and the plant rather than the background with the sofa and stuff. And as for those lamps, it's a matter of taste. Photographers would also retouch those and just remove them from the image to get a calmer composition. It's up to you to decide if you want to do it as well. And the fourth one, this is actually the best shot. This is a really good one, great depth of field, good composition, great contrast and lighting. So if there is one shot that you can orient all your others to, it is this one. It is really a clean shot, clear focus, good depth of field, good colors, good contrast. This is the right shot. So try to orient all your other works, all your other angles and shots to this one, and maybe then try again with the VW Art Club. Maybe this time it will work. Then we have Abdi again. This is something he uploaded today. It's simulation based on time flow physics. So all movements, what he says, are random and result from the physical properties and settings, which I think is pretty awesome. Now, I don't know how many of you will use a billiard table simulation in their works and how relevant it feels to you, but looking at this, always try to extract the most which is useful to you. So take a look at this and think about maybe something else that you can ask Abdi about, because he obviously can make physical simulations, which is worth a lot. So maybe you have fruit, that you have some good fruit models, and maybe you have some bowls, like bowls that you like, and you want to fill them with a lot of fruit, let's say peaches, and you have a huge bowl. You can do this manually, but it will take forever and it probably won't look very authentic. Or maybe you can do it by simulating the physical properties of peaches falling into a bowl of fruit, right? So maybe this is something that you can ask Abdi about. So when you see something like this, don't be like, oh, it's cool, but it's not something that is relevant to me, and move on. But try to see if there is something that you can actually extract out of this. Maybe not this specific snooker table, but maybe something else that you can ask Abdi about. And next time it won't be a snooker table, but a bowl of peaches that is being filled, something that will allow us to make our own assets, for example. So yeah, Abdi, this looks cool. Again, it was a big suspense to see if this red ball is actually gonna make it into the pocket or not, because as you see, it is slowly rolling into it. The orange ball fell in, but the red one was just standing there. But in the middle, fingers crossed, it fell in. So yeah, cool simulation. And I will surely be asking you about simulating other stuff. We have a project by Seper which was uploaded today. There is a lot to talk about, so I probably will give him written feedback to it. So in order not to extend the show needlessly long, shortly before we started, Nikos announced the next Chaos Campus live show, which will be now in 2 days on Thursday, November 16th at 5 p.m., so standard time. His guest is going to be Meng from Shop Architects. I don't know if you know their work. They're very interesting studio with very large scale projects and really good visualizations to them as well. So I will personally make sure to watch this one. And my recommendation to you is that you also check out their page. I will share it in the comments now in the chat. Check out their work. See how their visuals look like. If you have questions, note them. So once we get to the show on Thursday and we can ask directly Niku's guest, let us do so. Let us try to extract the most out of her knowledge, because this is just very useful and good to all of us. With this being said, let me just check the comments. I see Sachith says, thank you very much. He agrees to my opinion. I see that Abdi has also given him a bit of feedback, which is awesome. You can do this during the show as well. No issue with that. Abdi says also, thank you very much, Theo, for pointing out the projects, and I'm always open to questions. You hear that, folks? Use it, right? And with this being said, again, I don't want to extend the show any longer. I wish you a very good week. If you are taking part in our challenge, good luck with this. I hope to see you on Thursday on the Chaos Campus live show. If not, then next week, same time, same place. I'm excited about the projects that we will be uploading within this week. I wish you a very good time. Be safe, be healthy, and have a good time. Hope to see you next week once again. Aman says, thanks for a great session, Theo. You're very welcome. Have a nice evening and bye. See you in a week.